Hi, this is Charles from Angel Theory, and this is the video review for the album Beneath the Ruins 2. So 2018 was a fairly busy year for me. Aside from releasing the double album Last Man Alive, I also moved house just after Christmas. So December was flat chat busy, hence why this video is about a month late, coming out after the album release. I have moved to the coastal town of Lakes Entrance, which is about 4 hours southeast of Melbourne. Now, I actually have been coming down here for at least since I was like 6 or 7 on family holidays, and over the last 15-20 years on a yearly basis to spend a bit of time because I like it here. So I decided I had enough of Melbourne for now, and I wanted to live somewhere where it was quiet, somewhere by the beach, and as you can tell, I've got a tan, and somewhere where I can just chill out for a bit. So Beneath the Ruins 2 is actually a compilation album, as with the first compilation album, Beneath the Ruins. This one, however, is focusing on unreleased material and stuff that is kind of buried in the long past of Angel Theory of over 16 years now, I think it is. The material on the album itself was a combination of unfinished tracks, stuff that didn't fit on albums because thematically or sound-wise it didn't work in with the album itself. And so rather than actually just have them gathering dust on my hard drive, I thought I wanted to present them and actually release them out so that the die-hard fans would actually get an idea of where Angel Theory came from and stuff that kind of fell through the cracks along the way that still influenced stuff that got put on albums. So let me go through the album and give you an idea as to the timeline of some of these tracks and where they fell in the Angel Theory history. So first off, we have Fatal Condition, which was actually one of the very first tracks I actually wrote for Angel Theory back in, I think it was 2002. It didn't make it on the album Fatal Condition because I didn't really like the way it turned out sonically. It kind of wanted to sound a lot bigger than it did at the time. Thankfully, I've actually improved my engineering and producing skills, and it got to a point where now I felt like it was ready to be thrown and unleashed onto the world. And I love it. I think it's an amazing track still, and it really represents this kind of really nice chugginess that I like about Angel Theory, that kind of slow-paced groove thing. Up next is Seek and Destroy. That was originally done for a compilation album back in, I think, 2003, 2004. I was asked to do it for this record label, and I wasn't really a Metallica fan. I mean, I know of them, who doesn't know of Metallica, but I didn't really know much of their stuff, and they just said, here's a list of songs, grab one and do it. I gravitated to this song because it was actually really, really fast. I think it was like 140 BPMs, and I thought, an awesome twist to that would be just to slow it right down. So I think it's now down to about 70 beats per minute or something. It's just really slow and just kind of very pacey and menacing, which I think gives it a really nice twist. Now, to avoid any kind of legal issues, I actually re-recorded the entire track from the ground up. So yeah, that's how I got around that one. Concrete Garden and Network were both done and written during the Death of Angels album period. Both these tracks I really love because there's kind of minimalist feel to them. There's not much keeping it together except for a lot of percussions and textures. Concrete Garden was actually co-written with a very good friend of mine, Grant. I still remember the day we put it together. Grant and I would get together and had these sessions of basically putting music together. We would open up Reason or Acid Pro and just basically loop 32 bars and just throw everything and anything into it. Now, I would always keep telling Grant to basically hold up a little bit. We're putting too much in. He kept on putting more stuff in. I kept on taking stuff out. Eventually, Concrete Garden was born from this, and hence why it's such a long track, because there was so much going on with the original version of it. I stretched the whole thing out and tried to make the most of everything that we had put in with it. Network, on the other hand, was done by myself, and that was obviously inspired by the 70s movie Network. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. It's amazing, and I love that track too. Both those obviously didn't make it on the Death of Angels because they just didn't really fit in there. Missing and This Rotating Sphere were two tracks which were left over from the Psychonaut album. Both these tracks, obviously if you've heard them, in comparison to the Psychonaut album, are very different feels. Psychonaut was a fairly aggressive album, and these two tracks were kind of melancholy and a little bit more restraint, so they didn't really fit in with the feel of the album, hence why they didn't make it on it. Now, Missing itself was a very different track for me. I tend to not really write in very obvious lyrical forms. I try and use metaphors and things like that, but with this track, I decided to just go for the jugular and pretty much write how I felt at the time of writing that track. It's a bit of a sad, soppy song, but I still think it's actually a really good pop moment for Angel Theory. And This Rotating Sphere is once again kind of a distant cousin of Fatal Condition. It has that very chuggy kind of groove going on with it. And that song itself was left over as an instrumental for quite some time. And it wasn't until I decided to put this album together that I actually uncovered the music and thought, this still actually works. And then I decided to write some vocals for it. Gone So Far Away and Forever Silent Atmosphere were both left over from the Last Man Alive album. Now, both these tracks pretty much, I think, in hindsight, could have made it on the Last Man Alive album. However, I had this thing in my mind with the Last Man Alive album that I wanted it to be 10 tracks for the main album, 10 tracks for the ambient album. 20 tracks is a lot to absorb as far as one album is concerned, so I felt that if I had another 2 tracks in there, it would just be a very long-winded album. Both those tracks were written pretty much start to finish before the album had been completed, so when it came to putting this compilation album together, I knew they had to go on there, and I think they're pretty awesome. Wires Hanging and In Transmission were the last 2 tracks I had actually written for Beneath the Ruins 2. Now, both these tracks were actually written after the release of Last Man Alive. Once the album was released, I still had the want and the urge to create more music. But as I usually do between albums, I usually like to leave a bit of a break in between as far as writing is concerned, so I can actually go about, listen to other music, come back with new ideas and new influences, and kind of approach the thing from a whole different direction. But I wanted to keep writing, so I wrote these 2 tracks with the idea of obviously putting them on this album. And I think they're kind of really cool how they are not sort of obvious as far as Angel Theory arrangements are concerned, a little bit different, a little bit more sparse, and I think they work really well. So that's a wrap for Beneath the Ruins 2. New work on the next Angel Theory album will probably start in the next month or 2. I've already got a few ideas scrapped down as far as the direction I'm heading in. It's kind of cool. I like it. We'll see where it goes. Now, if you are not already a subscriber to the Angel Theory YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. If you think it's there, wherever it is, just click on it. Also on Facebook as Angel Theory, Instagram as Angel Theory Music, and angeltheory.com. And also on Bandcamp. It's everywhere. So thank you for your support, everyone, and I hope you have an awesome 2019, and I will see you next time.
Someone I remember, someone I have known, carried from a past life, it feels so long ago, deep beneath the surface, where all worlds will collide, looking for a meaning in things I've left behind. Somewhere on the ocean, lost inside the tide, debris over feelings, things I've left behind. I'm not here. With the feeling to kill, and it won't go away until our dreams are fulfilled. Running on our way, hiding, dying, 1,000 deaths. Running on our way, hiding, dying, 1,000 deaths. Searching, seek and destroy.
What's too many times, too many schemes, words that were spoken are not as they seem. A language of discourse were hidden in truths. I wish I could forget, I wish you would too. But I'm missing you, I'm missing you. I don't know what to do. I'm missing you, I'm missing you.
This tube is the gospel, the ultimate revelation. This tube can make or break presidents, popes, prime ministers. This tube is the most awesome goddamn force in the whole godless world. And woe is us if it ever falls into the hands of the wrong people. And that's why woe is us that Edward George Ruddy died. Because this company is now in the hands of CCA, the Communication Corporation of America. There's a new chairman of the board, a man called Frank Hackett, sitting in Mr. Ruddy's office.
Disconnected and never to be heard. In transmission, television, on my own.